narcissism is a disease, you know? And I think what can be the remedy for that is self-evaluation in a lot of different ways. And I think when you really break down and you try to self-evaluate, you can quickly understand that, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, you ain't shit. You know what I mean? And I think that when you get down to the bare bones and brass tacks of that, you know, that's where growth happens, right there from the ground floor.
The Converse Cowboy journey has given me an opportunity to sit down with some amazing performers that are living the Western lifestyle, where it is my job to tease out their habits and routines so that you can apply and test yourself in your own life. I've learned, I've grown personally, I've been enlightened, and I've been humbled. Above all, I realize that there is no destination in this life, no goal achieved or money made that can replace the feeling of flow and the pursuit of doing what you love to do. With a growth mindset, I'm constantly asking questions and pursuing knowledge. The Converse Cowboy is a platform that allows me to do just that. On this tour, we head to Fort Worth, Texas, where most of the Western world gathered for the NFR, the NCHA Futurity, and Cowboy Christmas. We set up at Schaefer Outfitter in the Stockyards to record podcasts with some incredible people. I'm excited and eager to share their stories with you all. I'm Mike Roberts. This is the Converse Cowboy. Brought to you by Kerry Kelly Bits and Spurs and Schaefer Outfitter. So we're down here in Fort Worth. We've been here all week doing interviews, and it's just a cool vibe going on down here. You know, the NFR, Cutting Horse Futurity, bunch of stuff going on here in the Stockyards. Like I said, we're here at Schaefer Outfitter. Very grateful for those guys to have us upstairs to record these interviews. So today we have The Last Knife Fighter. And man, I'm very grateful for you coming on today. Thank you for sharing your time. And I'm going to get into all the things I like to talk about with you. I'm curious to hear your opinion on and philosophies just on mindset as it relates to performance and in life. But before we get into all that, how's life treating you, my friend?
It's good. Currently, I've been killing it, you know, and coming down here, like I said, I don't like to leave Weiss County too much, but come down here and meet you. I've been following you for a long time. I love the podcast. I'm a big fan of it. And
thank you.
I said I couldn't skip on a chance to come down here and hang out with you, for sure.
Thank you, my friend. You know, I think it's interesting. When this show is still very much in its infancy, but even going back a few months, it was really still a baby. And I got in touch with Plugged In Creative, and they're the guys that are behind the camera. And we needed some music to go along with the cool visuals that they were bringing to the table. And I reached out to several different musicians, and you were the only one that responded. And they didn't only respond, but I remember I said, man, do you mind if we use your music? There's really, no money. I couldn't offer you any money or anything like that. And you said, my music is your music.
Yeah.
Man, and that meant so much to me because I respect what you do. I respect the tunes that you're putting out. And I'm just curious to know, what was it that made you say yes?
Well, I think a guy like you, and I took a very quick look into what you were doing, and I thought, hey, this guy's time's currency, and it's a pretty good trade. You know what I mean, for the music that I produced or whatever, and could give to you for the project. I was happy to do so.
Yeah,
100%.
Very grateful for it, my friend. And I get messages all the time. Damn, who is that? Who's doing the music for your show? And
that's
I'm
cool.
happy to share as much as much as I can, and plug you as much as I can. It's good stuff. But the question that comes to mind, I want to know, where did the Last Knife Fighter name come from?
Well, this is somewhat practice, but I'll give you the best thing that it is that the last knife fighter is not in a literal sense, you know what I mean, a knife fighter. It's more of a figurative sense that dealing with your own problems, whether it be anything from anxiety to some sort of a domestic dispute type of deal, to deal with it in close quarters and not shoot from it from afar, which I think a lot of people do now on their devices of anything on Twitter or whatever. So I think any uncomfortability, here's what it is. Any uncomfortability, I think you should lean into, and if you're not doing that, you're doing yourself a disservice and the people you're around. So
yeah, I love that.
That's where the Last Knife Fighter come from.
I love it, man. and everybody has them, right? Like everybody has struggles and challenges. We all go through things. Like I use myself as an example, going through a divorce, for instance. Like I thought I was on this island alone and kind of calloused up and scared to project something other than perfect, you know, and I was worried about all of the externals. But and when I started really looking in and going on this soul searching journey, dealing with that, now I'm able to share those experiences, and it's like that's where the growth is, you know.
100%. I don't think divorce though is an island at all. I think it's the mainland.
Yeah, but again, that's this fucked up story I was telling myself, you know, and that is the reality. Everybody's reality is different. It's based off of the lens in which we view what's going on, you know. And so whenever and that stuff comes up just because of the description you gave for the last Knife Fighter, you know.
Yeah,
it was something that's
absolutely. I've never, at least in the last 5 years of doing anything with the last Knife Fighter, just personally, I don't think I've pulled a punch once. You know what I mean? In any of that, and it's only done me a service so far. You know what I mean? Could get shot in the head on the way out of here, but we'll see how it goes.
Talk about that a little bit. You know, songwriting and how you. I'm curious to know about all of it. The process that you go through, the mindset. How do you set ego aside? I'm not saying you have an ego, but everybody does in some capacity. But anybody who's motivated and driven, I feel like there's some ego in there, and I think awareness is key of that. But like, how do you write what's true to you?
Well, I think narcissism is a disease, you know, and I think what can be the remedy for that is self-evaluation in a lot of different ways. And I think when you really break down and you try to self-evaluate, you can quickly understand that, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, you ain't shit. You know what I mean? And I think that when you get down to the bare bones and brass tacks of that, you know, that's where growth happens, right there from the ground floor. Right. You know, from the soil, and nothing else. And to answer your question, going forward as far as how I write and how these songs come up, is that they just come up through I think just the absolute plight of just being a human being, you know what I mean, and growing into it, and you know, you're not looking for it, but it surely will find you. You know what I mean, and so that's basically the grassroots of where these lyrics come from, at least.
So what are you doing? Do you keep a pen and paper with you all the time? Or are you just writing notes in your phone? Or do you sit down and say, I'm gonna have a writing session? And
no, I think romantically it would always be put on a pen to paper, you know what I mean, type of deal, romantically. But in the day we live and how fast thoughts come and go, I just keep all my notes on my phone, you know what I mean? And then if I have a moment of clarity, which usually shows up in a moment of just straight debauchery, you know, that you can kind of find that one line that kind of drives the song and the feeling that you're feeling. Yeah. And once you get that one line, it's very easy to dress that skeleton with meat and sinew and put clothes on it and walk it out the door. It's a lot easier once you get the true heart of it or whatever.
Right. So Tales of a Penny came out, 2 months ago? Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit about that and how that's been, you know, with this environment of COVID that we're in right now. Yeah. How was it releasing an album?
Well, it was very COVID-esque. I can tell you that much right now, that, you know, the first album I did was down in Austin, Texas at Arlen Studios, and who produced it was Charlie Sexton. He's quite a dude, and he's kind of the lead man, front guitar player for Bob Dylan. And he kind of reached out and said, hey, love to produce this album that you have. And at the time, they were all demos off of my phone. You know what I mean? So they're very... what do you call it? Not polished, you know. And so when he heard the songs, I think he had his own idea of what he could do with it, and that's Right and Wrongs. And the second album that I have there, Tales of a Penny, that was done just out of necessity. I had so many damn songs that I wanted to put out, and let's say there's 50 of them, and I said, man, there's 10 of them that are all the same theme, you know, and they were the theme of the downtrodden and the people who really don't have a leg up or anything like that, and I wanted to write something for that. And so I just took a collection of 7 songs that I had that I thought that could, put everything together theme-wise. I wouldn't call it a concept album or whatever. I don't even know what the hell that means, to be honest with you, but concept album. And it's about dealing with hurt, you know, and pain and all this stuff. And then in the severity of it all, you know, finding it somewhat comical, you know what I mean? And where you could just laugh off, you know, most any pain or severity that, you know, your life comes into contact with. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read Ray Wiley has a lyric. It says, "You got to have some scars if you want to be a poet." And
Accurate.
I'm just curious, like, where does that come from? What is it that you've been through to produce the music that you're putting out? Because you can feel it, you can feel the truth in it, and I know that's why it does resonate with so many people.
Well, I lost my mother pretty young, and I think that was a really good indication for me to understand, you know, what life is all about. I seen somebody's, you know, posthumous body sitting there, and I felt like that was a vessel, you know, and that whoever that was driving that vessel was gone. And it's, I always said when I turned the corner and I saw that, it was devastatingly curious, you know what I mean, about where the hell did she go, you know? And
how old were you when that happened?
I was 22, I think. So, in fact, we're on the 10-year anniversary of my mother in December 7th. I think we missed it. I don't know what date it is, but is it the 11th? Yeah, it's the 11th now. So a couple of days prior was the 10-year anniversary, so I got to kind of reflect on that a little bit, and I just understood more than anything that the last thing my mother ever said to me, she said, "Hey, it ain't who you are, it's who you help." And you know, and so that was what it was, and I got on a plane and I left the same day, and so I never really had the chance to grieve or you know, do it properly. I mean, people write fucking books on these things.
For
you know
sure.
What I mean,
yeah.
And, well, I didn't read them. You know what I mean, and so it was a really tough go, and what would have taken 8 years, or what took 8 years would have taken maybe 8 months done the right way. And so, well, I definitely want to preach to anybody that's lost anybody who's important to them, that there is a process to go through. And if you know, in any way, you know, dodge or negate that process, it'll just come back to bite you, and it's just it's a heavier load that you got to take for, you know, even longer. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
So that's where I draw a lot of it from. But I think that as far as the music goes, but I think that more so than that, once I got tapped into that whole main line of hurt and pain or whatever, I could see it in other people, and I did my best to, you know, kind of draw that out of the scenario, and you know, put it into words, and with a very modest melody, you know, to do so. So it was therapeutic in a way, but at the same time it was a tough ride.
Why do you think that's so hard for us as humans, though? I mean, I'm guilty of it. Like, why do we try to put the mask on? Like, why do we try to present the perfect us all the time and, like, expose the vulnerability of what's actually happening, you know?
Well, I think it's self-preservation, and it's a lot of just taking care of yourself emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, your mind is such a powerful thing, as you know.
So much more powerful than we even
Right.
comprehend.
Yeah, and it will take control, you know, I think quicker than you think. You know, looking out for itself or yourself.
Yeah.
And certainly mine did, you know what I mean, at an early age, or at an early exposure to, you know, death and pain or whatever. my mind went off and did its own thing, and it wasn't the best thing for me. But it was surely 100% true. I mean, that's exactly what my mind did to protect itself, Yeah. Well, when you get far enough away from the actual issue and you get an aerial view on it, I think that's when you can really soak it in and take it for what it is.
Right.
And what it was is a fucking tragedy,
Yeah.
And so now I know that, and I feel for it, and I feel for myself and everybody who goes through it. And now, again, going back to what my mother's last words were, with it ain't who you are, it's who you help, that, now I'm out here on a somewhat of a mission to make sure that I write these songs in a way where people can be okay with hurt, and not to the laughable way of it, but deal with it.
Yeah. That's a really cool story. Would you say that that's like your why? And I hate to just ask a cliche question like, what's your why? But to do what you're doing and to do the music industry, we sat down with William Clark Green the other day, and Wade Bowen gave him some advice. He said, you got to be able to devote 10 years of your life to this thing, not knowing if it's going to work or if it's not going to work. So that leads me to believe you've really got to believe and know why the hell you're doing what you're doing and really love it.
Sure. Well, I've said this before, I'll say it again, is that, no, I don't love it. I don't love it at all. I certainly don't get my nut, playing in front of people or, having any type of audience at all. But what keeps me driving is in the days of social media right now, which I'm on the cusp of learning a lot of it, or whatever. But when people reach out to you and they say, hey, this song, hit me in a certain way, I'll say one guy reached out to me, this is about a year ago, and he said, me and my dad don't have a really great relationship, and we kind of talk through songs. And your one song, I don't know if it was Life is Hard or whatever, but he said, hey, I gave that to my dad to kind of show him how I felt about, mom passing or whatever, and it worked. You know what I mean? It was enough to communicate, what he wanted to get across to his dad. And so I look at that, and a guy who really don't give a shit about anything, I gave a shit about that, and I just said, man, that's the most powerful thing I ever heard. And then I said, okay, and as an artist, I think everybody would agree, it's very hard to take yourself seriously. You know what I mean? You have a little bit of an imposter syndrome a lot of the time, and but when you get, and I've had a lot of great messages since then about the music I make and how it affects people and everything like that, and man, then it turns into a straight up responsibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To make these things, and to when you feel to, like, again, go back, make these notes, and then write a song about it. And it's helping somebody. I know I was helped by, Townes Van Zandt and Blaze Foley, and a lot of songs that they wrote, man, they weren't lying. You know what I mean? And I always try to tell everybody that, whatever I write or whatever I promise you I'm not lying,
Yeah. How do you overcome that? A lot of people starting out at anything, you mentioned imposter syndrome. You may feel like you're not good enough, like you don't belong there. How did you overcome the imposter syndrome?
Well, just out of necessity. I mean, out of necessity when people are relying on you, which I try to base my whole life around, like, not putting myself in a position to be relied upon, and you start making music and you start singing these songs and writing these songs, and then it surely does seem that people do rely on you. And so it gives you a little bit of a drive to continue what you're doing and chasing down songs and roping them and you know what I mean, and getting them to a spot where you can put them out to the public and the rest of the world, and like I said, man, as long as it's helping anybody, I mean, that's beyond whatever I would ever thought I could do, for sure. So I'm elated and enamored by it, for sure.
How would you, as a musician, as an artist, how do you separate the business side, making money, from the art of it?
I don't really worry about the money too much, and that's because of other variables that we're not going to talk about. But I don't really worry about the money coming in, and so because of that, I don't go out on a string of shows and play the Northeast or the Southwest or Texas or anything like that. In fact, I hardly ever play live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's because I've always tried to avoid being the guy in the corner. I don't want to be a human touch tunes, and the stuff I'm playing about, I think and I had a hard time saying this, but I think, it requires a little bit of attention. And if I'm not getting it, then I ain't going to do it. You know what I mean? And I could go on a string of things and tell you about how I've been fired from a million different jobs playing music because, they wanted the guy in the corner, and that's just not what I'm doing, at the moment.
Yeah. But I gotta think you put on a show. Like, do you have a band, or are you just playing? When you do play live, are you playing acoustic sets, or you?
I don't get along with most musicians, to be honest with you. No, I think there's a clear separation between musicians and songwriters. And man, if you're both, then that's great. You know what I mean? But no, I'm a writer. I'm a songwriter, and so dealing with musicians and kids that grew up, playing in the garage at 10 years old or 13 years old, I was out, kind of, and not to be a hardo, but I was out there skinning my knees and chasing down songs when I didn't even know I was. And so, to answer your question, no, I don't get along with most musicians. I don't get along with a lot of people, but
why do you say that?
Well, because I think I'm pretty steadfast in who I am, you know what I mean? And man, I'll be honest with you, who I am is a tough guy to deal with, I always say it's really tough being me. It's even tougher being my friend. You know what I mean? And there's some people who could attest to that, in this room or whatever. But that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's tough being a dude. You know what I mean? And it's tough just being a human in general.
Right.
And again, going back to the music, which we're talking about, is that the way I write things is that it is tough. You know what I mean? It is tough, but you're gonna be all right. You know what I mean? You're gonna be all right, and you just gotta hang in there a little bit longer. Yeah. And the sun will shine. You know what I mean? Type of deal.
Man, I think about that. I mean, I feel like what you're saying is like you are doing you. You're living your truth, and if somebody doesn't align with that, well, you're fine with it. Like it's totally fine. Where is the line? And this is something I struggle with. Like, where's the line between truth and respect? Yeah, so if I'm being honest with somebody and they're overweight and they're eating a cheeseburger, I mean, the truth is you're a fat ass and you probably don't need to be eating the cheeseburger and the Coke.
Right.
But do I say that out of respect, or is that?
Well, there's no respect there.
And that's just that's a very elementary
telling
example.
Somebody who's obese that they shouldn't have another burger. To me,
what if it's like a good friend of yours or somebody that you care about?
Yeah. Well, that's a knife fight, and I have no problem telling somebody, hey, put down the fork. You know what I mean? You had enough, type of deal. Now, as far as that goes, whatever, but it's alleviating. You know what I mean? You feel better when you tell somebody what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And I certainly don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think if it's in the betterment of them, and this is just, your own perspective.
Sure.
But if it's in the betterment of them, I have no problem telling them that. No.
Yeah.
And I've probably gained more good quality friendship than I have lost by saying exactly what I think. You know what I mean? In order to help them out. Or what I think is helping them out. And I'll put a percentage on it, I don't know, 70% maybe I'm right, 30% I'm wrong, with the way I deal with it. But again, in a selfish manner, man, it's all about me. You know what I mean? Dealing, feeling good with myself. Mm-hmm. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell my 350-pound friend that's 5'8", that, hey, maybe we should switch things around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe we should switch the diet around. Because you ain't happy. Ain't no way you are. Yeah. And if you are, keep doing it.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't give a shit. as long as you're happy, I think if you have a really good run of happiness in whatever you're doing, just do it.
Yeah.
As long as it ain't heroin, just do it. You know what I mean? And that's and that ain't Nike's. That's actually mine.
That's awesome.
Just do it.
Yeah, I was curious about that because for a long time I was living a very narcissistic life and trying to make everybody happy and saying the right things. But something you said resonated with me. It's like when I started being more true to myself, more people with that truth started to align with me, and the others tended to kind of fade away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think who you are in general, if you really self-analyze and go down, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
You're an embarrassment. You know what I mean? But you're not alone on that. You know what I mean? I think everybody is on that path as well. So with the songs, I think what I try to get to is really not what we're talking about for the most part. It is that there is hurt, there is pain, there is embarrassment, but you're all right. You know
That's
what
the
I mean?
thing I learned. Like, don't judge it. Don't judge any of it, and be grateful for where you're at. And
Well, who are you to judge yourself?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that if you think you know it all, then you're wrong, right?
Yeah.
And if you think you know nothing, you're wrong too. You know what I mean? And so, I'd like to find myself. I always call it like a kind of a horseshoe type of thing of the spectrum of tragedy and comedy. You know what I mean? Tragedy being over here and comedy being over here. Now, if you can go both ways and you felt both ends of that horseshoe, you can still see it. You know what I mean? You're right there, right by it. And if you can find and somehow mend that together, I think that's when you're a real person, and I think that's when you can write real songs.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
I just made that shit up.
I love it. I love it. Who were some people, you mentioned Townes Van Zandt earlier. I'm curious, who were some people, mentors maybe, that helped you out early on and then still today?
Well, I can't lie, a lot of it is my father. I think he's a very just man. And he was an entrepreneur his whole life, still is. And I don't think he ever did quite as well as he maybe thought he would.
Yeah.
Because he was too good of a man. And tis the season. George Bailey and It's a Wonderful Life. That's who I always kind of consider my father to be. A guy of such high principle and moral that it ended up biting him in his ass because there's so many people in the industry or in business that ain't the way they operate. You know what I mean? And because of that, he is where he is. You know what I mean right now, which is in a good position or whatever I should say. But no, I mean at some point you got to be a dog, and I think you got to be a dog with people that try to hinder your success. If your success or what your drive is pure and honest, anything that tries to hinder that, you got to be a dog with that, and you got to get rid of it. Bottom line. And I don't know, and I'm not preaching violence or anything. I'm just talking about business ethics.
Sure.
That you got to be a dog with that, and you got to look out for you and yours. And that's I've always said a wolf, a deer, a rabbit has an exponentially higher survival rate in an avalanche than a human, and the reason is that all three of those creatures that I said, they never once feel bad for themselves, right? Now, if you get a human all tangled up in an avalanche, you might be thinking about your mother. You might be thinking about something. Right away, you get tangled up.
Crazy, yeah.
And then that wasted time, right, on your own emotion is exactly the wasted time that kept you from surviving. So I consider a lot of things avalanches, including this.
This being?
An avalanche, I'm being asked a lot of questions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what I'll do is I won't feel bad for myself and I'll answer all the questions.
I think that's it though. Like anything you do, whether it's performance, musician, getting on stage, or just in life, it's like how do we find the stillness in our mind, you know? And like I constantly try to put challenges in front of myself. I constantly journal, I meditate. Like I try to get outside of myself and really just observe what's going on, and allow myself to feel it, you know. And going back to like the judgment, not judging how I feel, like being aware of it. And just dismissing it, you know,
Yeah.
and because that's controllable, right? Like that's the controllables in my mind. There are going to be things that come up that are out of my control. Most of the shit that happens in life is out of our control. And so I try to get my mind in a place so when that stuff does happen, it's almost automatic. Like I've been there, my mind's been there,
sure.
It's been stressed because I put myself in those situations.
Yeah. I think you shouldn't ever find yourself in a situation that you've been in before emotionally. And not, consciously tell yourself, have we been here before? You know what I mean? And I think, at least with myself, when I get to those things, it's exactly what I say to myself verbatim in my head. Hey, we've been here before. You know what I mean? And that helps me kind of just, ground the whole situation.
Right.
And then tackle it, the way it, that is most beneficial to myself, you know?
Yeah.
I don't want to take away from the fact that, I'd like to feel that I feel everything that I feel and think. Just kind of digest that on the whole and then go from there. I mean, I ain't lying. To be true to yourself, I mean, Jesus, you know what I mean? Like that's, what else do you need? You know what I mean?
When you really get down to it, yeah, whatever these stories or where we made up in our head, when I can zoom out 30,000 feet, or I
Sure.
can zoom out to outer space and I look back down, I'm like, shit's not really that.
And you
big of a
meditate,
deal.
right? Mm-hmm. So in meditation, I found that, and I do very little of it, you know what I mean? I do as much as I can, but when I do meditate, it's through guided meditation, something on
Feel like an app.
Yeah, through an app. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll plug it
Headspace.
Headspace is whatever.
Headspace is a good one.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the
a
one I
good
started
one, yeah.
with, yeah.
But no, it helped me to take myself outside, you know what I mean, of the realm of just being you and being a selfish person, which, man, we're born to be, you know what I mean? And so I will say it's helped me a lot. I don't practice it enough, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, it's tough to meditate hungover.
I've never tried it.
Yeah, well, it's tough, and your shit ain't working, you know what I mean? Like, your whole brain's broken, you know what I mean? And I go on these benders, and, a 5-day bender on the 6th day, I'm pretty broken, you know what I mean? And there's not a whole lot of things that are in your own brain in order to protect yourself that are working.
Yeah.
So you're really dealing with it then.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you run into a good song, and I think that's only because you're running right into yourself, with no barriers, gloves off.
Yeah.
I mean, you're dealing with yourself.
Yeah.
And, you can call yourself a piece of shit or whatever, and that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
And it's pretty accurate. But to digest that and say, okay, well, what do we do now? You know what I mean? That's rock bottom. And like I've always said, I got a timeshare down there, at rock bottom. But unfortunately, and I don't suggest this to anybody, but I think that that's where you got to go. You know what I mean? If you want to find out what you're made of, or what your true beliefs are,
Right.
and that's right there at rock bottom, at my timeshare.
That's what I was gonna ask. Like, why the benders? Do you go there? Is it for the hunt of the art and for the music to explore what's down there?
I'd like to say that it is such a righteous event that I chase these things down because I'm chasing songs down, but it ain't that. I think mostly it's because I have a mental and physical condition to push myself to the edge, and then also to drown out a lot of whatever real anxiety and very little of depression, but mostly anxiety. I drive all that out. And when you go on a 5-day bender drinking beers for 5 days, and a lot more than that, on the 6th day, this is a brain thing. Your serotonin is just you just worn out. You know, you ain't got nothing in there. So to pull happiness out of your own brain is very tough at that moment. You know what I mean? But if you can do it, damn, you know what I mean? You're something else, you know?
Yeah.
But right then and there, you come across a good line in your own head, man, that's a song right there.
Yeah.
You know? And that song, once it comes to fruition, once you, like I said, put the meat and sinew and close it up and walk it out the door, by the time it does, you know, it can help somebody.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know what way it is, but I imagine you felt the same way. You listen to some Towns or some Blaze or whatever, you hear these songs and you're feeling bad about yourself. They make you feel better, even though they're singing about, you know, what you're feeling bad about. It's crazy, you know, like that. And so that's what I think is going on with my music right now. Mm-hmm. And especially now, I'm elated to be a part of it. You know what I mean? And I hope it helps people. I hope it does.
Yeah, you should be. You should definitely be. What we've been talking a lot about failures and challenges and perceived failure, I should say. Do you have a favorite? Because when we go through this shit, we never realize why we're going through it. You know what I mean? Like, we may question why certain things happen, but really that's setting us up for something here, you know, down the road. So do you have looking back, do you have a favorite failure that maybe set you up for a later success?
Yeah, I wasn't a very good son to my mother, you know, before I lost her. I was 22, and I think my dad said it best, and I'll plug him just for a little bit more, but he said, you know, when you have a kid, you know, it's like an Apollo mission. He might have been off on his missions or whatever, but that, you know, you send this spacecraft off, and you want to get the right trajectory on it, because you go to the dark side of the moon and you lose all frequency with this entity, right, being your son or whatever. And you can only help that you set them up on that right trajectory to come out the other side, coming back down to earth, right? Mm-hmm. And that's all you can do. Well, I think they did set me up pretty good. But right before I got to the back side of the moon, you know, I lost my mother. And I think that my biggest regret, I think was the question, is that, you know, I wasn't quite old enough to be a really good son to my mother. And God knows she deserved it, you know? Yeah. And so, you know, and you can't get that back, you know? Yeah. So I bleed that over into just being really good to, you know, older women for sure, you know what I mean? I definitely want them to feel good. Yeah. And that's me just pursuing my own, what do you call it? Not travesties, but, you know, just wrongdoings for sure. But, no.
Righting wrongs?
Righting wrongs, yeah. And, you know, that's a wrong you can't right. And that's the toughest, you know? Because there's just a million wrongs out there that you can right, you know what I mean? But you can't do it with posthumously. Like, you can't. I'll never write that, you know what I mean? Yeah. But the best way you can is to do exactly what you told me to do, you know what I mean? And that's to, you know, it ain't who you are, it's who you help. Yeah, so. That's it. I'm gonna work on that later today too.
I think that's the thing. All these things we're talking about, like it's a practice, right? Like, you're never gonna get to this place and like you've achieved everything and you've figured life out. At one time I thought there was this place that existed, and I thought I had it all figured out, and I was looking around and I'm just like still not happy, you know. And so I'm a slow learner. It took me a long time to figure it out. There isn't a fucking destination that we get to, and we'll have it all figured out. And so I say that to say, all of these things are practices. Like, we continue to practice every single day, at least for me. Practice these things every single day, expand my awareness as much as I can, surround myself with the right people.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm trying to preach more than anything with the music, or just myself included, is that, you know, beyond the fog, there's more fog, right? Yeah. And that's just life, you know what I mean? Yeah. But, you know, again, and this is so cliche, but it's perception, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And to me, you know, the fog is now is comfortable, you know, for me, you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't feel lost in it, you know, anymore.
Yeah.
And all I want to do is, if given the opportunity, help people with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that is. It's pretty open-ended. And I don't hate that it is, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
you see wrong, you see somebody that, if anything, I guess I'm a real big protector of innocence, and we've all had it, you know what I mean, at some point in our lives, and some lost it earlier than others. Some are walking around with it right now,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a great thing to have. But when you lose it, then you really gotta bite down and chew on it. It's a tough chew,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, about where you're at.
Yeah.
And I can just only hope to be somewhat of a midwife, for people's own loss of innocence.
Yeah. And I think we all have it as children, right? We're all innocent, and then we go through social conditioning, and it kind of shifts and molds our beliefs in certain ways until we become aware of those thoughts and where they come from. Why do I feel this way? Why do I think this way? Oh yeah, well shit, that happened when I was 12,
Yeah. Well, it's self-evaluation, you know
For sure.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
I don't think that's preached enough. That should be a class in school.
Mm-hmm.
Self-evaluation.
I agree.
What do you think of yourself? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think if people really delved into it, especially at a later age, in your 20s and your mid-20s, when your brain stops growing and shit, that'd be a really good time to self-evaluate and think, who the fuck am I?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
And if you can do yourself the service of being true to yourself, then hey, there it is. We got a lot to work on.
Yeah.
Because everybody does. You know what I mean? And you'd be working on that the rest of your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I said, I hop at the chance. I hop at the chance to try to help with that if I can.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'll check myself in the sense of like, who the fuck am I to help you? You know what I mean? I have no idea. But if you're open to it, this is my experience.
Right.
I mean that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? With any knowledge or whatever, like to push it on somebody is crazy. To give somebody it when they need it, you're a fucking saint. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
It's as heavy and simple as that, in my opinion. That there's a million people out there. There's a million people walking on the street right now. You know what I mean? That have these things that they're dealing with, and they got to help themselves. I've never been helped by anybody. You know what I mean? In my thing, but again, I'm a different case. I guess. You know what I mean? Being where I'm at, and I'll put a little air to it, is that I'm an only child, and my mother was kind of the quarterback of our whole family, and then when she passed, it was just me and my dad sitting there looking at each other, and we don't know which way's up, and so we really couldn't help each other, in any way, and but on our own terms, for sure, in our own separation, we figured it out, and I think we came up on top with still the moving thing that was my mother, is that no, it's more than you type of deal, and so that's where I feel like I'm at right now. At least,
And that will continue to evolve and continue.
Oh, I'm
to
sure.
figure out.
Every day I'll be a better man leaving here.
Yeah. As a musician and in life, like, how do you avoid the comparison game? How do you avoid following trends as a musician?
Well, I don't listen to any music, so I think that's like a real big thing. Is like I can't tell you the last time I've been in my truck and listened to music.
Really? So silence? You have it off?
No, it's not silence. I'm a big podcast guy.
Okay.
If you can believe that.
Right on.
And no, I like to hear more opinion and outlook on things than I do, kind of being yelled at, which really is music. You know what I mean? And
what podcast are you listening to?
I listen to Spittin' Chicklets, which is a hockey podcast, and that kind of takes me back to when I was playing hockey, and I appreciate that, and that's more of kind of a brainless type of thing. I listen to, but my biggest one I should definitely plug is Stuff You Should Know.
I feel like I've heard of it.
Yeah, they just go off on all kinds of stuff you should fucking know. You know what I mean? And you learn so much. And I don't know. Now I'm even thinking about it. Like I'm wondering, like, am I trying to gain all this knowledge so I feel better about myself? Like I'm a loaded gun. You know what I mean? I don't know, but I think I just made this up. But knowledge is power. And I'll tell you right now that that's how I feel about it, and I'm trying to get learned up as much as I can, for sure, and it makes me feel better. So maybe that's therapeutic too. Again, you're asking these questions. People don't ask me questions. So it's opening up a lot of other things that I'm thinking of. I'm like, hey, maybe that is for whatever. But no, stuff you should know is something I'll plug to everybody right now. Stuff You Should Know podcast. 2 nerds run it, Josh and Chuck, and I'll tell you right now, they do a hell of a job, and you should get involved. Turn off FM and get on that, because they don't like me on. They don't like me on FM, for whatever reason. I don't know what it is.
I think that's a good thing. That's a compliment.
Well, I don't know. Now I'm thinking about this guy here. I don't even know the DJ, this disc jockey around town or whatever. And you don't have to. You can cut this out. But I'll tell you right now. Hey, dude, why aren't you playing my shit? What's wrong with you? Huh? You ain't got the plums? You ain't got the plums to play my shit? Is somebody paying you to do something? Huh? Anyways, I'll deal with you later.
We'll get him the message.
Yeah. Well, good. What the hell is his name? The guy. Anyways, you know who the fuck you are. I'm not playing my music, man. I got the fucking best music around right now. But maybe people ain't ready for it. I don't know.
And that could be it.
Tailgates is still sexy. And I find that hard to believe. But I'm sorry. Continue.
It's all good, man. You're very articulate, very smart guy. Just in the short amount of time speaking with you, how do you continue to expand your vocabulary that you're putting into your music?
I met this guy one time named Barton Sutter, and that's Googleable. He was a great writer. To me, he was just a guy at the bar I used to hang out with, but he was a great writer. And he told me, he goes, don't ever waste a word. You know what I mean? And so if you've listened to my music, you can tell that, man, I'm not trying to do that. You know what I mean? Every sentence I put in there, it could be very bland. But man, I gotta put some seasoning on it. I gotta put some stuff on it. You know what I mean? And I can't move forward without it. And so the songs come slower. I mean, no slower than the rest. But I heard about a writing circle, right? And I said, what the fuck is that? I said, I never even heard about that, and it blew my mind only because I couldn't believe that several different human beings could come together on one thing that's going to move one human being. I thought it was crazy. You know what I mean? Now, I ain't really against it or whatever. I'm sure.
So you'll co-write? You don't have a problem with co-writing?
Well, I do. Yeah, I have a big time problem with that.
I see.
I have a problem with it in the sense that I think, like, hey, you're gonna write something or whatever, but it comes across, and I think it does get to the listener's ears as 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 people. It ain't one person telling you the fucking story. You know what I mean? Like, my dad ain't here to tell you about me losing my mother. That'd be 2 guys doing that. That'd be 2 different things. I'm just telling you it right here, just one-on-one. And that, to me, that's what a song is. And I think that's what not to say that can't be a great song. You know what I mean? My dad can't write for shit. But I'll tell you, it might be a good song, yeah, for sure. Now I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, why haven't we, coded in a song, me and my dad?
That'd be cool, you and your dad, yeah.
Yeah, who knows, but...
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
Well, dude, I want to get into I got some rapid fires, and then I'll...
Oh, man, rapid fire, I fucking love that.
You ready?
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, what is the best one-liner you've either heard or that you say?
I tell you, my grandfather always used to say this, and it rings so true, in people's lives. He used to say, take her easy.
Take her easy.
Yeah, and we've heard that before, but that's the one that rings true, where I go, hey, take it easy. Yeah.
What all instruments do you play?
The pipe, and then very crudely the six string.
Right on. What is your favorite Western, or Western that's influenced you the most?
Well, that's a loaded question, and I hate to have just one thing. So I will say, obviously, Tombstone is I think what taught us right from wrong, given that the story is not historically accurate. But mostly Appaloosa. I loved Appaloosa because of the diction and the verbiage they used. To me, again, I wasn't around in the 1800s, but it was extremely accurate. And there is one scene where Renee Zellweger character, she just wanted to be with the man in charge. And so she's dealing with Virgil at the time, and I can't remember the actual actor's name, and they were together. Well, she come on to his partner there, and that was played by Viggo Mortensen. And he stopped her and said, hey, he said, we're both with Virgil, you know? And, you know, she got it or she didn't get it. Fast forward in the movie, she goes and tells Virgil that, hey, you know, he come on to me. He come on to me. And Virgil looked at old boy there, and he said, is that true? And he said, no, it is not. You know? And he said, it ain't true. Because that's the severity of honesty that was held with a partner that is going to save your life. And I imagine the men of the military and stuff like that can probably agree with that for the most part. But, you know, there's nothing that can break, you know, something like that.
For sure. I'm curious to know what books have you reread most?
Well, the Bible's a great story. There's basically everything that you need to know in the Bible. I think about, you know, if you take it a little looser than most, you might be able to benefit from it. And that's got just about every story there is. And I could probably bring up another one, but it would probably be loosely based on a biblical verse. You know, so I will say I never read the book.
Right on, man. Last
I
question.
thumbed through it, though. I thumbed through it.
Last question for you. If you could have a billboard, hypothetically speaking, getting a message out to millions of people, what would that message say?
You know, I used to say a year ago, I'd say wash your hands. You know, because I've always been somewhat of a germaphobe, and I've always told people, hey, wash your fucking hands. You know what I mean? But they didn't take it too serious until the old Wuhan come along. And this is so cliche, but it really is. If it gets anybody, you know, be kind. Be kind, you know? And I think there's a lot of moments that, you know, all of us can feel where there's moments to be very, very carnal and very nasty, you know, to each other. But I think that if you're driving along or you're dealing with everything, I think be kind is all right. That probably won't hit too good, but again, this is rapid fire. If I could sleep on it, I'd probably hit you with a good one. But
No, I think that's great, man.
But you got to be kind about that, you know.
For sure. For sure, man. Well, dude, thank you for coming on the show. That's all I got for you. Again, grateful for your time. That is our most valuable asset, so I appreciate you sharing it with me. And we're about to go have some fun in Fort Worth.
I think so. And I'd like to just close this whole thing by saying this man's a sweetheart. And he is on a pursuit of something that we are all on, and please join in the journey of this guy. He might run himself into the ground, you know. We don't know, right? But I'll say right now, I think he's on the up and up, and I think you're doing quite well. And I can't thank you enough for what you do. I'm a big fan. I really am. So thank you so much.
Kind words. Before you go. Almost forgot. We're going to get you to play it out to close the show.
Oh, yeah. Let's do that.
It's time to get loud.
Is this yeah, sure, yeah. I got a good one for today, too. I figured since I was coming down here, we were headed down to Fort Worth.
Down to Fort Worth, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I figured we'd play that one. What do you think?
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah? All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm headed down to Fort Worth, shiner in my blood, and I was riding through the midnight hour in a Jack Sparrow flood. And I won't stop for gambling till I lost too many farms, and my woman done and fell for me in a richer man's arms. My God, oh my God. Well, someone stole my candle and burned it at both ends. I can't afford to pay attention, drank away my drinking friends, and I'm hunting down the coyote that house outside this dive. And I shot out the moon last night with my last 45. My God, yeah, oh my God. Well, my mama was a pistol, I'm a son of a gun. Yeah, my daddy was a Yankee, and he lived on the run. I was born in a cane field, I was raised to blame. Hell, I thought I told you boys, high school went insane. My God, oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God. Yeah, I keep on getting older and younger by the ride. I can't take it easy anymore, I ain't an easygoing guy. And when my living's all over with no fate left to save, take blue bonnets playing in anger and place them on my grave. My God, that's right. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Oh, quick breakdown. Well, I'm coming back to Fort Worth, shiner in my blood, and I was riding through the midnight hour in a Jack Sparrow flood. And I won't stop gambling till I lost too many farms, and my woman done and fell for me in a richer man's arms. My God, oh my God. Yeah, just check it out.
Fuck yeah, dude.
All right.
Fuck
All
yes,
right.
man.
That's
That's
cool,
awesome,
man.
dude.
Shit, I lost about 80% of my power
I love it.
playing that. I had to lean into it.
I love it, man.
Anyways.
Well, thank you for coming by again, my friend. Thank you to Schaefer Outfitter for having us this week, and it's just been a blast all
Hey, if
week
I can
long.
say something about Schaefer Outfitter.
Sure.
It's quality product, folks. I tell you, you can go hither and yon.
Hither,
Is that what they say?
hither and yonder.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hither and yonder? And
It's your pitch.
You ain't gonna find this. No, I'm pitching for it, but you ain't gonna find this type of stuff. So come on down to I believe it's Exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Converse Cowboy tell you the rest. Yeah, you really nailed it.
You're going good, man.
Yeah, well, I lost those steam.
Last Night Fighter, thank you for coming by, my friend. Thank you to Schaefer Outfitter for having us. And we're about to go have some fun in Fort Worth.
You're damn right. You're damn right. Good to know you.